As you speak to, teach young people today, how do you give this all across? What's not necessarily what is your message, but what should young people be looking at when they look at the life of a Leon Trotsky?
Well, I think it's a very good question. You know, in some ways, the challenges he faced, the dilemmas he faced are extremely foreign to us. On the one hand, the Russian Empire, a peasant society. But on the other hand, there are basic values that we have to hold on to. One is democratic values. And, you know, I come out of the 1960s. I remember debates at Columbia during the Columbia strike, facing SDS, and I was in the building, but opposed to SDS. And, you know, I felt like a Menshevik. I defined myself as a Menshevik, and they were the Bolsheviks. The idea that you look for a moderate way out, you look for a moderate way forward, you do your best to avoid violence, you look for not a question of compromising basic values, but what are your values? What are you really defending? And after all, the tragedy of Trotsky is that he starts as this young man who's really an adolescent when he became attracted to the revolution. What was he doing? Creating pamphlets, creating leaflets, organizing workers. He wanted civil liberties. I don't think he ever could have dreamed that he would be in a position to order executions, to order censorship. I don't think he ever could have dreamed he'd be capable of that. Yet once you had power, and this unexpected revolution lands in their lap. You know, one of the anecdotes we haven't talked about that I really enjoyed finding for my book was when Trotsky was in New York for a couple of years, in 1917, actually just a couple of months. He's living in the Bronx. Where does he eat lunch? He eats lunch at a Jewish vegetarian restaurant with Russian waiters. Why? Because they're like him. They're Jews, they speak Russian, the menu is familiar to him. But what does he do in that small piece of the universe? He tells the waiters, I can't give you a tip because you should be earning your salary. That should be enough for you. You shouldn't have to rely on tips. Furthermore, I'm going to berate the other customers that they shouldn't give you tips. And the other waiters were angry with him. They spilled soup on him. They wouldn't serve him. And 6 months later, 7 months later, he and Lenin take over the Russian Empire. And so that same fanaticism he was expressing in that modest little dusty restaurant in the Bronx, he's now exerting over an entire country, the largest landmass country in the world, with that same fanaticism. I think that's something to be wary of. Right or left, right or left. And I think that's a message that pertains in every society. So that's why, on the one hand, you have to feel sympathetic for Trotsky on a personal level for all he endured. He really held power for only a couple of years. After 1921, he becomes more and more isolated. He's responsible for setting up the initial institutions that become Stalin's levers of power, censorship, the Gulag, all those terrible things Trotsky approved of in that context, to win the revolution, to win the Civil War.
This has been absolutely fascinating. We can go on, but fortunately, again, Dr. Rubenstein, Leon Trotsky, A Revolutionary's Life. It's a wonderful. It's very readable. It's not that thick, so someone should be scared of it, and it's really readable. It's a page turner, and thank you very, very much for your time. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Ari. Toda rabah.